Okay, so it's 11 o'clock. Let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. There you go. Okay. There you go. Okay. Wait a second. My voice should be okay. I'm going to double check. Preference. My voice is okay. All right. Seems to be working okay. All right, let's get started. So my screen, your screen, okay. All right, let's get started. Thank you so much for joining Exploratory Online Seminar. Today is number 52, Introduction to Exploratory Server. Before getting into, let me introduce myself. My name is Kan Nishida, CEO at Exploratory. Exploratory is the company that we started back in spring 2016 to democratize data science. Since then, we've been building a tool called Exploratory Desktop and also Exploratory Server, which is more like kind of platform to make it easier to access all various data science methods and technologies. So that you can own your data, you can analyze data, you can gain better insights, deeper insights from your data. Prior to starting Exploratory, I used to be working at Oracle as a development director and leading and building various data science related products. Okay. When we say data science, we mean, this kind of like data science workflow. So usually, always any type of data work you start with, it's more like data analysis work. So you start with the business questions and you want to answer by using the data. And what you do, like you first like access the data. And then typically the data is not cleaned or in a way that you can visualize or analyze. So you want to do the data wrangling to shape up the data or clean up the data. And then like you use the charts to visualize the data so that you can find patterns or trends. Or you use analytics methods so that you can find patterns and the trends that are hidden in the data. And then it goes this cycle, any order, any combinations until you find useful insights that help you to answer the business questions. But most of the time, like you're not the only one who's working. You usually work with others. So the last part is the right-hand side. Communication is also very important. So we think these are the very fun, sort of like element, essential part of the data science workflow. And then we built Exploratory as a modern and simple UI to do these 5 things. So data access, data wrangling, visualization, analytics, and communication via dashboard, note, and slides. And all these things can be done in a single cohesive UI. So that's really the Exploratory. Okay, so let's get to main theme. So Exploratory Online Seminar number 52, Introduction to Exploratory Server. Okay, so here's the agenda. I'm going to start with what is Exploratory Server, but then after that, I'm going to go through sort of like a life cycle of Exploratory Server, the kind of things you can do with a server. Okay, so first, this is like kind of like a conceptual architecture of Exploratory Server. So mainly there are 2 things. It's like a data catalog and the insight catalog. Data means really the data, but and the insight means a chart or analytics or notes and dashboard and types of things. But you can consider those basically the same thing. Whatever the thing is that you create in the Exploratory Desktop and publish to the Exploratory Server. And then in there, like you can do, scheduling, interactive mode, or sharing, and various things. But this is kind of like a conceptual things. And it's really Exploratory Server is a kind of a center of the collaboration. So therefore, you can use Exploratory Server, Exploratory Desktop to access to the server, like publishing or downloading the data kind of things, but also not only the exploratory users, but all other types of users like BI users or Excel users, or even like R and Python users as well. Okay. Okay. So, so when you use Exploratory Desktop, like I said, introduced at the beginning, you have this sort of like kind of data science workflow, right? So you do, data access, wrangling, or analytics, or whatever, and then you create insights, right? Or you prepare the data. So that's really the Exploratory Desktop. Then once you have the, like let's say like a charts or notes or dashboard and so on, then you want to publish to the Exploratory Server. And then in that Exploratory Server, there are various things you can do. So that's this graph. So basically, like I said, kind of picture it as a life cycle. After you create the insights, then these are the things you can do. And these are the things that I like to introduce today. So first step is really you create with the Exploratory Desktop. So what do you create? Well, you have the data, and then in an Exploratory, as you know, like you can create a bunch of data wrangling steps. So original data, for example, maybe like it's easier to show. So for example, here is the data. And then let's say like I imported it from Excel or even like a database or website or whatever. And then you have, data original, this is like a raw data, right? Like just you download it or imported the data. And then sometimes you might want to filter the data. Sometimes you want to clean up the text data. This case is, I think, like title case, uppercase and lowercase, you kind of clean them up. And you might want to summarize the data at the customer level or country level and so on. You might want to join with other data, sort of like kind of combine the data. And then you might want to add extra calculation. What's going on here? Extra calculations. And then eventually you might want to do, top 100 customers. You want to keep only the top 100 customers or something, and so on. So like, this is kind of a typical process. Like you start, working with the data, ended up like you have maybe like 10 steps or 20 steps, right? And so this is what it means, the kind of data wrangling steps, so that like it's reproducible, but also readable, of like what you have done. And at this point, you have this data, like 100 top 100 sales customers, and you might want to share with others so that they can, use that data for, whatever their business, right? So, but here, like I have the data that I want to share with. And then you might want to create, like analytics, like this is like, using a profit time series forecasting algorithms to, do that forecasting of the sales. Or you might want to create a dashboard, and then, or you might want to create a note as a report. And then, whatever that could be, at this point, you're ready to share with others, right? Or you might want to automate or schedule so that the data is always up to date automatically, instead of like you click on the import refresh button. So now you're ready to publish, right? So, so if you have data, then there's a publish button at the top of the table view, or even summary view as well. And if you have note and you have the publish button right hand side top, same thing with the dashboard. You see those publish button, and then once you click the publish button, and then you get this publishing dialog. And one important thing is this private mode. If you are sharing something that like, you don't want other people to see, most of the time, like, your business data is very private. So you want to keep it private. That's a default. And if you uncheck it, then then you publish it, that is actually public mode that anybody can open it, right? So, but you can keep checking the private mode so that only the invited people can access to it. And once you publish, then you get this unique URL. And then you can click on it to open in that web browser. Okay, so this is pretty kind of common task, nothing so special. But one thing you could do also is when you publish, you can add tags. Let's say this is a sales report, so I add the sales, or this is also particularly for the lead customers, so I add the lead as a tag, or executive reports, and you can add multiple tags. And then once it published, and then you see this like a tag icon, you can click on it to expand that tag area. And in this case, I have 3 tags. When I click one of them, let's say like a sales tag or something, then like I have this tag page. So this page shows all the reports that has tag of sales. Right? So this is where kind of you can manage, because once you start publishing many reports or dashboards, and it's kind of hard to organize. So you can use tag to categorize this. Like this is business, this is operation, this is a sales, marketing, and so on. Okay. And then if you want to add extra tags, there are 2 ways to do it. You can go back to desktop and add the tag and then republish it. Or you can just open this server, this page in the server in the web browser, and then add it right there as well. I usually do it this way because I don't, it's kind of a hustle to go back to desktop and do that. Okay. So now it's published, it's done. So from here, like now it's a sharing time. So once it's published in a private mode, then you will see this icon of share. And once you click, then you can see, this like a sharing sort of dialogue. It's very similar to, any type of collaboration application, such as Google Docs, for example. And then you type the email, and then you type the message. And the latest versions, you can even add like a subtitle and subject as well. And then click on the share button. And then the ones invited will receive this kind of email, and then with the message. And then that person can click on the view button. And then that person has already have an account of Exploratory account, then has already logged in at the Exploratory web page, then can open the dashboard or note or whatever right away. But if they don't have it account, then they will see this kind of UI. So it's basically a sign up UI. And then they type like name and password, click sign up, and then they get they get their Exploratory account. This is a free account because this is like a viewer account. So until they upgrade to the author account or like a personal account or business account, they can't use Exploratory Desktop. But if they just want to see the reports that they are shared with, then they don't even need a desktop. So therefore, they can keep that a viewer or a public status. Okay, and then it's free, and then after that, they can open that dashboard as well. So another word, you can invite many. So you have that Exploratory account, and then you publish it, and the dashboard or chart or data, whatever, and then you have 10 people, 100 people, whatever, you can just invite them all. Then they don't have to, like worried about like paying or not paying. It's all free accounts, just as long as they can just browsing or seeing. Well, even then, maybe you don't want to have others to create Exploratory accounts. Just imagine like you're sharing with like, your senior management folks who don't know Exploratory whatsoever. And you don't really want to ask them to create accounts of, at somewhere that they never even heard of. And it's kind of hard. So in that case, you can share your private dashboard with a special URL. So in a sharing dialog, you can enable that URL link. What this is going to do is going to generate the special URL that so that you can actually copy this URL and send that to others, and they can click on that URL to open this. So that means only the people who know this URL can open this dashboard. Right? So you don't have to worry about like other people randomly just kind of accidentally like open this dashboard, because it's kind of hard to guess that URL. But the one problem though is that what if like 3 months later or even like a year later, that person you shared with left the company, and then but they still have that URL. So it's then that becomes a problem in terms of like a security. So in that case, you can actually disable the URL and then you can enable back. Then it will regenerate the new URL. And then this URL is different from the main URL that you as a author or published person see in the web browser. So the above is the main URL, but you don't want to use that to share because that person, as long as unless they're invited specifically, and if they click on that top URL, they can't open this. Only the URL generated in this dialog is the one can be used to open this dashboard. And that's why those are different. And then you can disable and enable to keep kind of renew that URL if you are worried about who have the access now, that kind of stuff. Okay, so there's that. And then I created a slide to kind of detail for more details on the difference between the public and private with URL option. So if you're interested in, please take a look at it later. I'm going to share this slide as well. Okay, so you share it, and then now, of course, this is what you want to do, right? You want to view whatever the one that's been published. So a couple things. Let's start with inside dashboard, a note, or a chart analytics. It's sort of like of course, you can just open it in a web browser. Nothing special. What's special is the view data. So, like I said, you can actually publish the data at the server, and that is actually it's kind of cool because you have precisely like four the latest, but it's mainly like a summary and table and metadata views. Let's take a look at this one. I have created it. So here, not here, this one. So I have published this one in the private mode. How can I see the private mode? So when you see this lock icon, that means this is shared in a private mode. And so that means only the people who I invited explicitly can open this data. And then when you open it, like the default summary. And as if you're an Exploratory user, like this view, this is the first thing you see after you import the data. And the same view is shown in the web browser as well for the data you publish. Okay, and then we go to the data view, and then this is like basically the table format. And then you can actually sort of like a search, let's say like, hey, like I want to see like only Europe data or something like that. Or instead of each column, I can go here, like, hey, like let me show me some like a particular person's data or something like that. And then whatever the matching column, and then it shows whatever the rows that match with this condition. Other thing is you can sort, and when you do the sort, it shows this like a kind of color bar. So it gives you more like a graphical information, visualizing information here as well. Okay, and then you go to the metadata, and that's where like you can describe what this data is, which is important when you share with others. And also you can have the information for each column. For example, what this purchase period means, you might want to add the explanation, and then you can go to the edit mode and add that as well. And then this is the data. So if it's a chart or dashboard types of things, it will generate a sort of thumbnail image. So when you see it, like, oh, what, you have the idea. Because data, it doesn't. So you can actually add the thumbnail image if you like. Otherwise, default image is going to be shown. Okay. And then history, and this is kind of recent. So this is like every time you publish, it will capture that information. So you can type the comment when you publish, hey, like I added a new column, or I changed the formula for calculating the sales or something like that. You can add those comments as a history as well. Okay. So that's a data view. And then because of this, we call it data catalog specifically for the published data. Okay, So that's the data. And another thing is not just viewing, you might want to download the data. I think this is more common, not more, but it's very common case. You share the data. Why? Because other people can use it, right? So at the right-hand side top, there's a download button. And underneath, there are a couple of options. And so again, here's Exploratory Server. And then this Exploratory Server is a sort of like a platform for data. So, it's maybe like some of the users are Exploratory Desktop users. Some of them are BI or Excel users. Some of them are developers. And all of them can work together on this Exploratory Server, right? So what that means. So first, for data to be downloaded, you have to make sure you check this CSV option. Sorry, this is like a Japanese UI. So let me bring up here. So if I publish this data, and then here, this is the checkbox I was talking about. And then if this is not checked, then download option is not going to be available. Sometimes you don't want other people to download the data, right? So in that case, you can uncheck this one. But if you check this and then publish it, and then what is going to happen is you see this download button and then a couple of options. So if you are or your coworkers are Excel or BI users, they might want to just download it as a CSV so that they can import it into the applications. If you are a developer or your coworkers are developers, they might be more interested in accessing this data via API so that they can sort of like embed this whole thing as part of their system. Then, why you want to use the API? Because after this, I'm going to talk about it, but it's a scheduling. So you can keep updating that data, for example, every day, and you're building some application and you use this API to get that data, whatever the latest data, dynamically, instead of like a human involves and then download and import, that kind of stuff. So there's the API option as well. And if you're an Exploratory user, you can download and import as well. Or you can use the API, but you use a remote CSV or something inside Exploratory. You can do that too. But if you are Exploratory user, I would recommend to use this data catalog from the menu. Then you will see a list of the data that have been published at the server, and also you have access to. So the one including the data you publish or the data that somebody published, but they shared with you. Then from this UI, you can click on the import button, and that will directly import the data from the Exploratory server. I mean, I can download the data and import to Exploratory. And then why this is cool is because obviously, like once it's downloaded, you do the analysis or create the charts or whatever, and maybe a week later, and someone else, I mean, like this data has been scheduled at the server. All you need to do is click on the refresh or re-import button, and it will dynamically re-import that data from the server. So you don't have to go to the web page and download and then come back to Exploratory Desktop and import the data, that kind of stuff. Okay. So not only the data, but also the chart and analytics, right? Because there's the data behind the chart or data behind analytics, right? So that type of data also can be downloaded as a CSV or as API as well. So, and then the last not least is interact. So we have been seeing all those data or the chart or dashboard as kind of a static thing, right? And except you can schedule so that data can be more up to date. But even then, you are looking at the same thing. But sometimes, like you share with others, and then other folks, some of them might want to see like a particular set of the data. Some of them want to see like different set of the data. So in that case, you can use this thing called parameter. And then once you create the parameters and add it to the report, then you can have other people use the parameter to see only the section, only the sort of subset of the data that they are interested in. And the dashboard, the parameter is very flexible in Exploratory. So how that is flexible is, for example, you can create the parameter that affects entire report or particular section. For example, in this case, I have 3 parameters at the right-hand side. And this region parameter impact all the charts. But this return parameter impacts only one chart, because I can create a chart in Exploratory, use a chart filter, and then I can parameterize that chart filter. So therefore, this parameter is going to impact only particular chart. Same thing for analytics. Analytics has its own analytics filter in each analytics. Then once you parameterize that filter, this field subcategory parameter is going to impact, I mean, like whatever the update I make on subcategory parameter, update only one particular chart. Okay. And then I said, like, adding the parameters, but the way you design a parameter is like sort of like you parameterize a filter, you parameterize the calculation, you parameterize the SQL query. So you just focus on that one. And then by the time you create a dashboard or note or whatever, you don't even have to worry about like which parameter to bring or how you bring that kind of stuff. It will automatically detect what are the parameters are required to generate, in this case, a dashboard. So these parameters will be automatically added. And then if you like, you can change the order or the way it's layout kind of stuff as well. And not only the dashboard, obviously, so that data or chart or analytics or node, and all of them can support these parameters. I'm not going to go into the detail on the parameters, but I have done the seminar some time back. So I recommend, if you're interested in, recommend you take a look at the past seminar. The way you can find the past seminar, you go to our website and then go to Learn. Underneath, there is how-to bracket tutorials. You can go to the online seminar page as well, and then there's a link to go show all the past seminars. But I like to recommend going to the how-to tutorials page, because then you left-hand side, you have all this kind of menu for each topic. And in this case, you click on the parameter, then what is going to happen, it shows all the related notes or information that have something to do with the parameters. In this case, you want to click on the how to use parameter. But even like left-hand side, online seminar number 40, Introduction to Various Filter Types, that in that seminar, I've introduced some element of the parameters as well. Okay. So that's it for view. And the next topic is the schedule. So once you publish, then you want to make sure the data is always up to date. And if you are dealing with, let's say, like you imported Excel that is sitting on your local desktop, then you can't schedule, because the Exploratory Server has no way to access to your local PC, which is kind of creepy, right? But if you are sourcing the data from like remote database or remote server as a sort of remote CSV file, or maybe cloud application like Salesforce or Google Analytics and so on, then when you publish, the Exploratory Server can access those if you like. So those that you'll see this like a schedule button on right-hand side top. I have created this like a sales dashboard here. And actually, let's go this one. Ooh. Let me check my insights. And I thought I had, let me go here. Let me find sales dashboard. That's here. Okay, so this dashboard I created based on the Salesforce data. This is demo data, by the way. And then I see this like a schedule button, because Salesforce is a cloud application. So therefore, Exploratory Server can access if you allow Exploratory Server to do it. So then when you click on schedule button, then I can set, let's say like every day, and then like maybe like like 6 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and it's my time zone, which is happen to be the Pacific time zone, and then I can save configuration. Then it's going to start this scheduling job every 6 o'clock in the morning, And once it's done, you can actually check this box. Then you can receive the notification saying, hey, the schedule is done. Hey, the report is ready. I think that's a really kind of cool. I'm going to tell you why. Okay. But this is like this scheduling sort of like a management UI, like you're the only one will see it, right? So you invited other people to see this same dashboard. And then they might want to be notified as well. Like let's say like every 6 o'clock in the morning, hey, this dashboard is being updated or something like that, especially if there's a data in that dashboard that like you want to monitor every day, right? Like, you know, like how many customers today or how many conversions today or how many cancellations kind of stuff you want to see it. So you might want to receive the email. So in that case, other folks actually go to open the dashboard. And then the right-hand side, there's a 3 dots button. And then under the bottom menu, and there's a subscribe button, a subscribe menu. And then this is the way like they can subscribe that notification email. Okay. And then once they subscribe, then you get the notification email. So this is actually pretty new, recent update. Now the notification email include the thumbnail image. And what's really cool is that the thumbnail image has the latest data. So the schedule job, let's say like 6 o'clock in the morning, what it does is the server kicks off that process and then do whatever the necessary thing to generate that dashboard. Might be including not just creating the charts, but also creating the data and then running the data wrangling steps to update the data and then create the charts and then create a dashboard. All the things is happening at the server, right? Once that's done, then server capture this thumbnail image and then put that in the email and send it to you. So what's been cool for me personally is that I have some of the dashboard I want to monitor, some of the numbers I want to monitor every day, right? And then I get this email and then I don't even have to open it. I just see the numbers right there, like how many customers, how many new conversions. So that, sort of like my job is done. This is the, desktop, but I can open in a mobile phone. So this is kind of my favorite features that being updated recently. So that's why I'm kind of passionate. But so you can get this notification email, and not only the one who published, but also who was shared with can receive this email as well. Okay. So the how scheduling works, or like how the Exploratory is accessing to your Salesforce data, right? So a couple types, right? Like first, remote files. So even the CSV or Excel, if you're accessing through, like a remote server, like HTTP servers, HTTP URL or something like that, then what happens is like when you publish, and it will publish along with that URL information. Therefore, Exploratory Server knows that URL and then access to that data. This is useful. It's sometimes, especially the data is stored on the GitHub in a public way, by the way. And then, you want to access, for example, like, COVID-19 data being updated every day by Johns Hopkins University or something like that. Then in that case, you can always access the latest data. Other type is a database, right? Maybe like Snowflake or Amazon Redshift or Google BigQuery. And in that case, you create a connection, which includes the username and the password and connection information. Then you create a chart and you write a SQL query to get that data. So when you publish, it will publish the connection information as well. Therefore, Exploratory Server will use that connection to access to that database. So the connection is you create a connection and then you select the connection to write the SQL. That's this is the Exploratory Desktop UI. Okay, and its password is encrypted, so Exploratory Server doesn't actually we don't even know, but we just pass that to the server, and then run the same SQL query to access it, to query that data. Okay, and then the cloud apps like Salesforce and Google Analytics and then Twitter and so on. In that case, you allow the Exploratory to access to your Salesforce or Google Analytics or Google Spreadsheet. That's you see OAuth authenticate authorization UI. this is, I'm talking about this when you do that at the Exploratory Desktop. So you have this auth token. And when you publish, the token gets published as well. So therefore, Exploratory Server will use that and then access to the cloud app. Once in a while, and depends on the cloud app, like I've seen a Google spreadsheet often, they expire the token, maybe like 2 months or something like that, or whatever the period. And in that case, when Exploratory Server try to schedule, meaning try to access the data, but the token is being expired. And in that case, scheduling job fail. In that case, you will receive the schedule job fail error a notification. Then all you need to do is just click on the open that report, and then you will be shown the re-authentication, reauthorization dialog, and you say allow or something. Then you go through that kind of auth dance again, and then you enable that as well. Okay. So the scheduling is cool, right? But there's a one thing you need to note is that there's a limit of like how much data you can process in a month. So unfortunately, we don't have like unlimited resources. So we limit how many data, how many rows, how many size that you can process during the month, and depending on the plan. So like you have the personal, business, and then like premium, and then so on. So you want to check like how much of the data is being used. And unless you explicitly upgrade a plan, we don't upgrade your plan automatically or anything like that. What's going to happen is, let's say that you have, like let's say 10 gigabyte or something like that, and then you exceed, and then that particular scheduling job fail because you don't have that capacity. Then you have two options. You kind of stop running a schedule for that month until the next month's period starts, or you upgrade your plan. So, but then now you want to see like, how much data that you've been processing, right? So that we added this stats page. So from the user account menu, click on the stats. And then this page will show you the views. This views has nothing to do with schedule, but it just gives you the overall idea of like how many people are accessing, how many views, how many, not necessarily people, because some people can access like the same thing a couple times a day or something like that. But nonetheless, overall is like how your reports being accessed. And you can see each report or the total and so on. But this usage, under the usage tab, and then that's where you can see the center is actually the most important. Rows processed this month. And then my plan is kind of like a crazy plan, but your plan might be, like up to 1 million, might be like 10 million, 100 million, something like that. Then you see, how much percentage has already been used. And then you can see like when the reset will happen. This is like a month period, 30 days period. So, like you might be like already used that, like 99%. And then you see like, oh, it's already, let's say 100%, but then you see like, oh, 2 days later, the reset is going to happen. Then you just might want to just wait for the 2 days if you can. Okay. And then underneath each report shows, each data or chart shows how much data it's used, how much rows it's processing. So you might want to stop some of the scheduling if you realize some of them are not not really useful anymore, but taking up a lot of rows or data, then you want to reconfigure the scheduling job. Okay. So that's it for the scheduling. And the next topic, the discover. So you have published many, data and insights, right, at the server. And then you start saying like, hey, like where are that reports? Where are dashboards? How can I find them? Easy way is I've already demonstrated today, but you go to Exploratory page, under the user icon, there's a My Insights menu. Click on this, and then it lists all the insights and data that you have published so far. Okay, and this is, in this page, you can search or you can use some of the parameters that narrow down, the list that you want to show as well. And another thing is under the scope, shared with me menu. This is like, if you're Google Docs users, you might be familiar with this, but not only the one that you publish, but you are interested in the ones that you are shared with someone else published, and then someone that person shared with you, and then where are they, right? So that's where like you can use this shared with me, and then this will show you only those type of the insights or data. Okay. So how can I find the insights and data that other people publish? This is not necessarily other people shared with you, but other people publish to our server, Exploratory Server. Exploratory Server is basically the cloud, right? So a lot of people using it, and then some people might be, publishing some kind of interesting data. How can you find it? Well, you go to search on our website. You go to search and search insights or search data. And under that, like you see all the public insights, and also the private insights that you have published or some other people shared with you. Whatever the one that it could be like you have access to. And then you can use the parameters to narrow down the list as well. Okay, so that's it for the discover. And then the last, not least, is a reproduce. Okay, so reproducibility is really important for any data analysis or any data science projects. And Exploratory, for us, that's really the sort of kind of foundation how we designed the first version of Exploratory. Like when you do create the data, transform the data, create the charts, whatever. The first time it's kind of like you're busy and you're just kind of focusing on to get the job done, but down the road you end up like having to do the same thing again and again, and then it always like taking up a lot of time for doing the same thing, and then you can't find the way you did before, you don't remember, and then a lot of time being wasted. So reproducibility is important for the productivity, but not only that, reproducibility is important for the data integrity. Like you produce some data and share with others, how they can trust the data that you produce, right? So reproducibility is really key. And then this published data and the charts and the dashboard, they all guarantee this reproducibility. How? Well, under the download button, you see this EDF, and that stands for Exploratory Data Format. But in a common word, it's a kind of reproducible format. So let's do this one actually here. The one that I have created, this is like a top 100 customers. Wait a second. Yes, top 100. Sorry about that. Okay, here's the top 100 customers. And then under the download, now it's the EDF. And I can download this EDF, the top 100 customers, and then I'm going to download it. And then I'm going to open the Exploratory Desktop. And then this time, I'm going to create a new project just to make sure, to make it easier. Untitled project needs 25, that's fine. And and in that new project, what I want to do is I want to import that EDF file. So from here, plus button, and then this import EDF. And then this is the one that I just downloaded. And then click Save button. And the name, I can give the name, but I'm going to just keep the default. And what happened is the data, not just the data being imported. If I download it as a CSV and imported that data, then all I see is this table view with one single step. But because I downloaded it as EDF and imported, therefore, not only the final data, but also all the steps that come with it. So I can see, go visit each single step, see like how this data is being created by others or maybe myself, and then check that, make sure everything's okay. And also I can even customize the existing step. And then not only the steps, but also like you see, this is like a left join. So that means it's joining with, combining with other data from the different data source, different data frame. And then that happened to be this customer country. So whatever the data frames that are required to reproduce the final step are included, getting imported together as well. Okay, so that's the data. So data is kind of simple to explain this thing, but not only that data, but also the chart. Like the chart, behind the chart, there's a data. So you want to reproduce that data. That data might require like 10 steps to, transform the data before, generating the chart, right? So download EDF and import EDF, that will not only generate this chart in your Exploratory Desktop, but also generate all the data wrangling steps as well. And another thing is a dashboard, and I think this is a really a key for us. Is that, for example, here is a dashboard, right? And then I want to reproduce this dashboard because someone created it. And then I want to reproduce this dashboard because I don't like this particular chart. I want to just customize it, or I don't trust this data. I want to see like how they created this. Now, what I can do is download EDF and then activity report dashboard. Then go back to the exploratory. And then either way, like from data frame menu or reports menu, either way, I can import EDF. And then like, import. And what is going to happen is it's open the dashboard window. And this is kind of like expected, right? And then I can click on run button to reproduce the dashboard that I was seeing in the web browser. So and then at this point, what is actually doing behind the scene is that like it is producing all the data to generate this chart, and then on and so on. And what's behind this dashboard is, in order to draw this dashboard, it requires this survivor users data frame and also activities data frame. And the activities data frame, these, for example, these charts are required, right? And then under the analytics, I don't know, maybe this one. Basically, this is the chart we are looking at in this dashboard. So all the charts, all the data required to produce this dashboard being reproduced inside my Exploratory Desktop. So that's really cool, but also it's very important for working with the data. Okay. Okay. And then all the charts are required for the dashboard and reproduce. Okay. So we covered all the life cycle, starting from create insights and data, and then publish, share, view, schedule, discover, and reproduce. So now, one more thing, which is Exploratory Collaboration Server. So we've been talking about Exploratory Server, but there's something called a Collaboration Server. What that means, what that is. So Exploratory Server is basically like, all the type of people can sort of like work together around the data, around the insights, right? What happens is if you're in your business, like let's say you're working for the company, and then typically the company has this thing called firewall, right? That kind of sort of like a control or restrict, what you can access, what you cannot, kind of thing, right? So the exploratory server is obviously outside of your company's network, and maybe your company doesn't allow you to publish anything like outside your company's network. Like, I mean, I can totally understand it because they are worried that you might be publishing the kind of confidential data outside. And who knows who's going to hack, our server, right? So they don't want you to do that. So in that case, you can actually bring this exploratory server on your server. And that is a collaboration server. So collaboration server is really the exploratory server, but the on-premise version of exploratory server. So we call it collaboration server. So you can install on your server, like Linux server, if you have, or AWS or Google Cloud platform, GCP, or Azure, Microsoft Azure, whatever the cloud platform or server is, you can deploy it. It's a Docker image. So it's very simple to deploy that image instead of like installing all the different components kind of thing. Okay. And then once you have set up, then rest is basically the same life cycle of exploratory server, but you can actually do it within your company's network. But there's some specific features to collaboration server, and that's what I want to introduce quickly. So you have the admin UI, administration UI. So now you are the owner of the exploratory server. So you manage that users. Who are the users? What they can do, kind of stuff. Okay. Usually, when you use our exploratory server, the cloud version, then we manage, right? So that you sign up and then we enable your account and that kind of stuff. But when you have the collaboration server, then you assign who can access that kind of stuff. Okay. And then you can even create a team, and that is kind of cool. So you create a team, you add the members, and once you do it, what you can do is you can share with a team. Let's imagine like you create a sales team and a marketing team or something like that. And then some of them belong to sales, some of them belong to marketing, some of them belong to boss. So now like you create a dashboard, you want to share with the people who belong to sales instead of like John and then Nancy and then, Michelle, that kind of stuff. You might want to just share with the team. You can do it with the collaboration server. And when you publish, instead of publishing as you can publish as a team, let's say a sales team or something like that. And that will make your URL that, that's assigned to each dashboard and auto chart data will have the team name as part of URL. And this is useful when you're working with people and then some people, keep publishing a bunch of data and one day they quit. And then all of a sudden that URL, becomes disabled if you delete that person's account, or you keep that account, so therefore URL is still there, but then you're kind of wasting that, one license there. So in that case, you want to switch to the team, and then always like whatever the dashboard or data being published under the team, and so that's one very useful use case for the team. Okay. And then you as an admin, you want to see like how many people are accessing to which dashboard, which node chart kind of stuff, because sometimes it happens like you have a 20 dashboard and you want to make sure people are looking at the dashboard. But what if like some of the dashboard nobody looking? Do you want to keep maintain those? Right. So you can actually go to the stats page. And this view will show you like all the data, dashboard, whatever being published at the server, and then what are the how many views, how many likes, who that kind of information you can view, and also the usage, right? So this is like especially for scheduling wise, some users might be scheduling the reports that nobody's looking. Then in that case, you might want to stop the scheduling kind of stuff. And then there's a scheduling job, managing the scheduling job UI as well. Okay, so these are the collaboration server specific things, but bottom line though is basically the same as the exploratory server, except you can have it on your machine or on your server. Okay, that's it for today. So the next seminar is, I'm planning for next Wednesday, same time, 11 a.m. Pacific time, the exploratory for Google BigQuery. So this one is not only introducing how to access the Google BigQuery data, but there are a couple of things you want to know when you use a Google BigQuery, because they support like some kind of cloud data storage kind of option as well. So I'm going to talk about sort of like how to access, how what's the good way to download the data types of things. But also I like to cover like how to visualize the data, how to use a summary view, or how to use analytics to effectively, like analyze your data or prepare the data. And of course, data wrangling stuff are involved as well. So for future seminar or past seminar, you go to learn an online seminar, and you can see the, future plans as well as the past seminar recording as well. Okay, so that's it. If you're interested, if you have any questions, please contact us. You can always, within the Exploratory app, there's a chat window, or our website, there's a chat window, or you can email me at kan@exploratory.io. And also we have the Twitter, Exploratory Data, where we announce, exploratory related news as well. So you might want to check that out. Okay, so that's it for today, and then I'd like to open up for the Q&A session. Okay, there you go. Okay, so from the Richard, hi Richard, how are you? It would be nice to add an extra layer of security to the special URL by adding a password when sharing privately. Oh yes, that's right. So we are thinking about adding the password as well instead of just the URL, so that you can share that, the password code or something like that. Yeah. So thanks for that feedback there, and also. Oh yeah, so that'd be great thing. Okay, good. Any other questions?